What's up? I'm Drew Paul Bell, and what I want to talk with you about today is some ideas around left brain and right brain thinking. Now, these are two different things that are a lot of different cultures kind of draw a line between these two different ideas. I think that in China they refer to this as yin and yang, right? The yin yang, that symbol, I think represents this kind of dichotomy. I've heard people use the term masculine and feminine energies to describe these different modes of thinking, and psychologists have also used the term left brain and right brain thinking. So the easiest way to explain this is that left brain thinking is like an L is like for logic, and it's kind of like the people who are supposedly left brain thinking are good at like math class and science class in school, right? And then the people who are right brain thinkers are supposedly good at like language arts and history and social studies, this kind of thing. So people told me this a lot when I was young, and so I personally was like, I was never very intimidated by math, and so I assumed, oh, I must be left brained. And that's what I kind of told myself for a long time. And I wasn't very good at writing in the beginning, and I decided, well, I must not be right brain. But the truth is, I actually just I never had a good writing teacher. No one taught me writing until the 11th grade. I was a junior in high school when I finally had a great writing teacher, and he taught me how to write in like 3 weeks. And I wasn't amazing in 3 weeks. I spent a lot of time improving after that, but he taught me the basics, everything the basics of what I needed to know. And so then I had like a miniature identity crisis at the end of high school, because I was like, okay, well now I'm left brain, but I'm also right brain. I didn't get it, and I wasn't too upset about the little identity crisis. I was totally fine with it. But the next year I actually took a psychology class with one of the other best teachers I ever had, and she taught us about these different intelligence theories. So there is the intelligence theory that people are good at left brain thinking or right brain thinking. But what I eventually figured out was that for me, it's not that I was good at like left brain classes and bad at the right brain classes. I was good at the skill-based classes, and I was not as good at the content-based classes. So the reason I'm sharing this with you today is to invite you to really consider what you're actually good at, and to reconsider the story that you're telling yourself. Because I told myself a story for a long time that I was left brain, I was a logical thinker, and I wasn't good at creativity, and I might have scored well on a creativity test once, but like I thought that I didn't know how to write, didn't know how to draw, I didn't think I was very creative, and I thought I was very left brain. But eventually figured out that like that is not the only intelligence theory out there in the world. There's a dozen of them, there's lots of them, and to narrow yourself down into like either left brain or right brain may not be the best thing for you to do for yourself. And so, like I said, I was good at actually the skill-based classes and not as good at the content-based classes. Math and writing and reading and all this stuff, language arts, it's all skills. Math is like a system that you have to understand how to work, and then it uses numbers, addition, subtraction, these orders of operations. It's a system, and once you understand the system, then you can apply it to whatever you need to apply it to. With writing, there's also a system, and the way that I learned to write was I learned about Aristotle's rhetoric, right? The logical, the emotional, and the visceral appeals, logos, ethos, and pathos. Then I understood that there was a goal to writing, right? To change somebody's mind, and that it gave me a purpose, it gave me something to do, and it gave me the method of how to do it, using these different logical, emotional appeals, and then also using the language, right, and structure and syntax and grammar and all those kinds of things. But the point is that it was a system. I just had to learn the system, and then I could apply that, and then I could go do well at it. It wasn't that like, oh, I was bad at right brain thinking, I'm going to always be bad at right brain thinking. That was just not true. And so I figured out that it was the skills that I was good at, and it was the content classes were the ones that I struggled with, because it was like I wasn't as good at, I was excited about the ideas of science and stuff, but like it was laborious for me to try to memorize the parts of a cell, or the stages of photosynthesis, or the reasons for the fall of Rome. Even though I might be able to find interest in any one of these things, like memorizing content it didn't come as easily for me as understanding a skill and then learning how to apply that in many different ways. So what I'm inviting you to do is consider if you are skill-based or a content-based, if you prefer one or the other, okay? And once you do that, then you can figure out how to apply that bit of knowledge to the other side of things. For example, I was bad at spelling, and I've always been pretty bad at spelling because I approached spelling like it was memorizing. I approached spelling like it was content and not a skill. There is actually a skill in a system to understanding the language and how these prefixes and suffixes and root words, they all derive from each other. There's a whole study of etymology, right? Had I understood that, and I don't know how realistic it is to even understand that as like kindergartner or a first grader, but now I really believe that if I went back and studied that and I devoted enough time and energy to learn spelling, I think I would be able to understand the system, because once you understand the system, it's a skill of understanding how you apply it. So I think I could learn that thing that before I thought was content based. There's a way to look at it through the skill lens. If I think about, I had to take a class in college. It was called Cultures. It was basically architectural history class. And in this class, there were like 4 different semesters where we had to learn different architecture. We had to learn about, they would show a photo on the tests, and then we would have to name the name of the building, the name of the architect, the city it was built in, and the year it was built. This is a lot of memorization, and this was something I really struggled with the first semester or 2. But what I finally figured out was you can apply, if you're a skill-based learner, then you can apply a skill to learning content. So I went old school first grade spelling homework assignment, and I would study by looking at, say, like the 50 buildings we had to know and write down what they were, like 10 times each, covering it up each time. So I'd cover it up, write down the next one, cover it up, write down the next one. And that would force me to come up with it on my own. I'm not just like looking over and copying it. That's just reproducing content. That's not the skill of recalling it. But instead, I was able to figure out that like the skill-based things was really what I was better at. Now, if you are a content-based learner, if you are somebody who's better at memorizing facts and you're really good at like trivia night and you can remember all the things, like I think that there's a way to study a lot. I think to me it seems laborious, but if you could look at like all the parts of a building, you could memorize all the content of the things, right? You could study the list. You could get a dictionary on architecture and study what all these things are. And then I think that it would be easier for you to then go make sense of those things, right? I think that whether you're better at skill-based learning or content-based learning, I think that there's a way to adapt that for you to change your own education as it comes to architecture. Don't fall into the trap of labeling yourself either left brain or right brain, because that might not be the division where you really fall. I get a lot of people leaving comments on my videos asking about how, oh, I'm bad at math, can I go do architecture? Or I'm bad at drawing, can I go do architecture? I really think that you can learn any one of these things. And as I've said in videos before, if you really do not have the capacity to learn one of those things, then yeah, you can go find yourself a job at a firm and you can definitely work in the industry. But if you want to be successful as an architect, I think that the best architects, like when you really look back and look at like the ones that society remembers, it's going to be the ones who can do both. And so I don't see the use in shying away from this bit of knowledge. There's so much stuff you have to learn, right? Why not learn those things too? Okay? So anyway, I hope this helps you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video if you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and I will talk to you next time.